Back at the lair, it was almost like a brutal storm was brewing. Kofu was crying her eyes out in her bedroom while covering her head with her pillow in hopes to avoid screaming and arguing coming outside of her bedroom door. She could hear them since she and her brother's bedrooms were close to the living room. Her heart was crushed into pieces when Mikey ran out of the lair to who knows where. Meanwhile, the others were arguing with Raph over what he's done to Mikey. The red-masked turtle was in complete shock. The red crimson that splashed on his fist was the reminder of what he did. He was pulled out of his shocked state when a hard fist was made against his chest, causing him to go flying and slam right into the wall. He groaned in pain before he heard Master Splinter yell, "You should be ashamed of yourself, Raphael! You harmed your brother with glass!" For once, Ollie was the one being held back by Leo and Donnie from murdering Raph. "Let me go, you two! I'm gonna kill him!" He shouted as he struggled. Leo and Donnie only tightened their grips on their angry brother, while Raph managed to free himself from the wall. He looked up and flinched when he saw the angered look in Splinter and Ollie's eyes. He didn't want to admit, but he was a little scared of their anger. Splinter approached him with caution and looked at him with anger blazing in his bronze eyes. "Raphael, I am extremely ashamed of you. You treat your own brother as a punching bag and use glass to harm him, which caused him to run away," he scolded. "Until your brother is found, you are banned from leaving the lair, and you will not join your brothers and sisters in other activities." Raph wanted to yell at Splinter, but he didn't in fear he would get hit again. He bowed his head silently before he started to make his way into his own room. When he heard the door close, Splinter's anger returned to sadness before collapsing to his knees. A single tear streaked down his cheek while trying to hold back his cries. The others hugged him as tears began to form in their eyes too. The memories of how they treated Mikey started to flow through their minds. Leo and Ollie would scold Mikey for trying to keep quiet while during patrols, when Mikey tried to warn a couple of times, yet they ignored him and told him to keep quiet. Donnie had memories of him yelling at Mikey to leave his lab, fearing he would mess up his inventions or cause some chemicals to spill. During missions, Mikey would try to help, but he just pushes him away, saying he would just goof off. Splinter felt his heart shatter when his memories of the many times he had scolded Mikey for not paying attention, or when he told him to be a little more quiet when meditating. They were all ashamed of what they did to Mikey. In the night, it wasn't easy for them. Splinter couldn't sleep at all, as he was too worried about his missing son. Kofu had cried herself to sleep after she hadn't come out of her room for hours. Leo and Ollie had troubles going to sleep after what their missing little brother had said is true. And Donnie couldn't even get a wink of sleep from all the crying he had to keep made back. Raph had the worst, since he locked himself in his room. He didn't know what to think anymore. After the hit he put on Mikey, and the words from those messages were what described completely. He wears and sees red. He's always angry, and he acts how much he hates his brothers and sister. He was a monster. "Mikey, I'm so sorry," he whispered to himself, laying in bed, staring at the ceiling. Chompy, his pet alien turtle, was already asleep, so he didn't have anyone to talk with. "I'm so very sorry." For the first time, he had tears streaming down his cheeks before darkness overtook him and consciousness started to fade from him when his eyes fluttered shut. Raphael woke up with a jolt. He didn't know what caused him to awaken, but it was something. He didn't know what it was, but it woke him up with a jump. He panted softly to catch his breath and to figure out what happened. Maybe some water or a slice of pizza can help me sleep, he muttered to himself. He slowly sat up from his bed. Or at least he tried. Oh, come on! He struggled with much force, but his limbs wouldn't budge. They felt like boulders were crushing them, or they're frozen in large blocks of ice. No matter how much Raph struggled, he couldn't get free. Is this what sleep paralysis is like? He wondered in his mind, nervous. He could move his eyes and head, so that's good. But as he looked around, nothing could be seen so easily in the pitch-black surroundings. Even with his ninja stealth, he couldn't see anything. But then he felt something big and soft. It was down at his feet, slowly going up. He tried to make his feet move, but they wouldn't even budge an inch. Whatever was crawling onto him was something he wasn't comfortable with. Soft and cuddly? Not his thing. But before he could say anything, his mouth suddenly froze shut. He struggled to open his mouth, but he couldn't. It was almost like something glued his lips together. He could feel that thing climbing on into him, and he couldn't do anything. He looked in front of him, and he could see a bit clearly now, but not fully. Just below to his feet, an outline of a familiar plush was crawling up to him. His eyes nearly widened as saucers to the unfamiliar outline, and then the familiar light pink coat. He watched in fear to see her crawling up to his chest. She may be small, but she was creepy to him. You monster! 2 words was enough to get Raph them to open his eyes wider before a strained gasp left his mouth. It was as if time had a flash forward, as he could feel her 2 front hooves grab his neck, and a tight grip was formed. The once friendly cerulean blue eyes were now bloodthirsty ruby red, as her smile grew into one of excitement and insanity. This look had Raph fearing for his life more than his fear of cockroaches. He could feel while she was trying to choke him out, as she shrieked with rage flowing through her mind while he tried to breathe. You're a heartless monster! One who harms his own brother with no heart or remorse! He won't come back! I'll make sure you never land your fists on my savory pizza ever again! Suddenly, the whole place flashes white before it all went dark. Raph gasped and coughed as oxygen began to fill his lungs again. Now his limbs could move with no problem as he sat up, clutching his throat as he took heavy, deep breaths. He searched around his room, only to be greeted by darkness. Nothing else. Crunch! He nearly screamed when he heard that sound. He panted slightly, while trying to stay calm, but he couldn't calm down fully. Hello? He stuttered nervously. Please, come out. His electric green eyes had started to water from fear before he heard the same noises. The same noise of cracking bones and crunching glass coming from in front of him before a soft sound of something lighting up reached his ears, even though he didn't have ears. He watched in fear as tears trickled down his cheeks, and a soft yellow light lit up the darkness to reveal nothing but the thing, revealing its true self instead of hiding. Raph had to bite back a scream as best he could when he noticed her appearance as one of a skeleton pony. Her glowing horn poking out of her black mane was igniting the beautiful pale yellow light, and her large wings were folded on her back. She stood there and looked at him. To his surprise, no eyes but big black sockets were looking at him. Suddenly, as he was almost imagining things, a little black mouth appeared and said something that terrified him to the bone. No. Raph sat up from his bed in cold sweat. He looked around. He was back in his room again. He placed his hands around his throat for anything. To his relief, no marks of hooves were anywhere on him. But his confusion was hit when he realized the skeletal pony wasn't here. What was it she said? He asked himself. He couldn't understand her clearly because her voice sounded like broken glass and cracking bones. Was it dagger? No. Doppel? No. He was really questioning it now until one other word hit him. One that really set him questioning and fearing. Danger. That's what she said.